Okay, I accidentally hit the button too many times and I almost called emergency services, so that would have been really weird. Hello again, and welcome to our first Indie Book Club video review. As you can see, we are doing our Halloween edition. I mean, I would be dressed like this normally, but the lights would not normally be here, obviously, because that's very awkward to have that on your couch all the time. If you came here from our Medium article, you know that we are talking about the book Mind-Blowing True Ghost Stories, Signs from the Afterlife by Carl Buehler. This book is a first-hand account of a number of instances that the author has experienced himself in his ghost hunting, in his seeking out paranormal proof, and in conducting seances in various places, both in Nevada and around the country. It plays very much like a episode or a series of episodes or a season of like Ghost Adventures or something like that. I personally had never seen a book version of a show like Ghost Adventures, but if there was going to be one, it's this. The instances in this book begin in 2002. The book was copyrighted in 2010, and as of last February, pre-COVID, so hopefully he's still there, February 2019, he was giving tours at the Washoe Club, ghost tours, in Virginia City. Good for him, man. 20 years. That's 20 years doing anything is pretty impressive. And I would know because I have been kind of a writer for 20 years. So it is not easy. Carl Buehler is someone who has an expertise, wanted to share it, and did that through a book. So I'm not holding it to the standards that I would hold a typical fiction book to. I'm holding it to standards, but different standards. That being said, the topic I want to talk about is valid for any book you choose to write. It is the classic adage of show, don't tell. We hear it all the time. Writers hear it all the time. We get it in critique groups all the time. Oh, this is telling, not showing. You need to show this more. What does that even mean? Like saying things with words, putting things down in words, isn't that just kind of automatically going to be telling someone? Yes and no. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick this book or any other book. I would rather do a comparison. So I'm going to take a passage from this book. I'm going to read it to you in as scary of a voice as I can possibly fathom. And I'm going to compare it to a segment from this book, which is Haunted Las Vegas, Famous Phantoms, Creepy Casinos, and Gambling Ghosts by Paul W. Papa, who's another Nevada, Las Vegas local. As you can see, I have, this is a well-worn copy. It does a similar thing. It's a nonfiction book. It's not firsthand, but it gives accounts of various hauntings and weird happenings around specifically Las Vegas and a couple of other places. So I'm just going to read two short excerpts and then kind of talk about it, but mostly I'm going to leave it up to you to kind of see what I mean. This is a trip to a haunted graveyard in Ohio, and in my opinion, it is the best. I'm not taking, this is not my goal to trash books in doing this, so I am taking what I think is arguably the strongest passage, or one of the strongest passages in this book that deals with a haunting or with activity. So I just wanted to be clear on that. So there's some interesting punctuation in here. And so I'm going to do some hand gestures so you know what I am seeing. I'm going to, whenever there's all caps, I'm going to do this. And whenever there's an exclamation point, I'm going to do this. All right, so all caps, exclamation point. Here we go. Right at that moment, it got eerily calm. So calm that the crickets stopped chirping. It was totally silent. The next few minutes were so terrifying, I got chills up my spine just thinking about it. All of a sudden, we heard a powerful roar of wind that came from nowhere. It was so loud that I knew it was no ordinary wind. It sounded like a miniature tornado. The next few moments changed our lives forever. This wind surrounded us, as though it was trying to trap us. The wind brought forth what I can only describe as the sound of demons. We heard these loud shrills and shrieks, as though we had opened up a portal into hell. I honestly cannot describe it in any other way, except they truly sounded as though they were demons from hell. Within a matter of seconds, it seemed like they had surrounded us. It was so terrifying that my sister screamed, "Oh God, help us!" The next thing I knew, she took off running, and I was right behind her. For the first time in my life, I truly felt that we were both in serious danger. It seemed like we were living in a hellish nightmare. The car was only 50 yards away, but it felt like an eternity before we reached it. We were both in a state of shock. The incident played out as though we were in a horror film on Halloween night. It could not have been scripted any better. Pretty intense stuff. Okay. What I'm going to read from here, I think it's a little bit shorter or about the same. It's from a chapter called The Casino's Curse, which is about the Luxor Hotel. But they had heard so much about this ride, and they were determined to take it while they were in Las Vegas. It was finally their turn, and the two women found it hard to contain their excitement as they boarded the boat designed to resemble an Egyptian barge. Erin slid into her seat and readied her camera as Catherine slid in next to her. The ride was not the typical thrill ride found at most tourist attractions. In fact, the women didn't even have to wear seatbelts. Instead, the ride slowly wound its way around the first floor of the casino, following an elaborate canal that had been cut into the floor and filled with water. "We are about to enter the temple of Ramses II," the tour guide announced as the barge passed under replicas of pharaohs sitting on chairs, their hands resting on their own legs. The pharaohs were surrounded by columns. "Isn't this exciting?" Erin said to Catherine, who quickly agreed. "I know these artifacts are replicas, but they are simply amazing." The two women took pictures and pointed out the images to each other, as those images were explained by the tour guide. The barge made its way around the casino, through the Temple of Amun, and around toward the dark tunnel. As the barge entered the tunnel, Erin suddenly felt a chill and involuntarily wrapped her arms around herself. "Did it just get cold in here?" she asked. "Sure seems like it," Catherine replied. "It's probably just the water in the tunnel," Erin said, to herself more than anyone. It was at that moment she saw him. He was floating just above the water, and as the barge drew closer, he reached out to her. At first she didn't realize what was happening. After all, why would a man be standing in the water? But as the man came closer, Erin leaned back against Catherine to avoid his grasp, and as she did, Catherine turned toward her. When Catherine saw the man floating in the water, she screamed. What I would like to point to probably as the biggest thing is if you found this and this distracting while I was reading it, it was. And it's things like that, exclamation points, and that sort of thing that really almost are like shoving feelings down your throat. And that's also lines like, "It couldn't have been scripted any better," or "We were so scared," or "This was so intense." Feeling feelings for you or telling you how to feel, that's telling. This one doesn't say anything about that. I don't think it even used the word scary in it. It just lets a scene unfold, and by the end of it, you're kind of, doing one of these things, just kind of like, ugh. That's showing. In as short of amount of time as I can tell you, that's the difference between showing versus telling. It's essentially, it's not even showing, isn't even really the right word for it. It's leading, telling someone where you want them to go, leading them there, and sort of kind of on a leash, versus evoking or sort of inspiring. So it's more leading versus evoking than telling versus showing. But it means the same thing. It's basically just don't lay out for the reader what they're supposed to feel. Actually make them feel it. Actually make them see it. Actually make them experience whatever it is that's going on. And this book does have moments like that. It's still a very worthwhile read. And like I said, it was great for the holiday. season that we're in right now, and it's got some great Nevada history. It's stuff you're probably not going to find in a lot of other arenas. I'm sorry, just real quick, I have to say this. We need to talk about what's going on here. Carl is obviously a skilled ghost hunter, and he wrote this book to share that experience. This is a passion project, very clearly. That being said, there are still, if you're going to be a self-published author, if you're going to put a book out there are things you need to do in order to not only make sure your book is as best as it could be, but to respect the authors who are going for the bigger career in books. He obviously has a career as a ghost hunter, but this is in our world now, so you got to play by our rules. And that is two major things, really. Get it read by someone who has written a book before, or has written something that's been published, or had went to school for writing. They'll be able to catch those things, like don't use exclamation points in the narrative, don't use all caps in the narrative, that maybe if you're not trained in that, you just don't know. It's not your fault. It's just, you don't know it. And then we got to talk about these fonts. Like this background cover, I love this. That's freaking scary, man. And that's that's his photo. He took that photo on one of his outings. Like, that's freaking terrifying. Absolutely use that. It's the red, the yellow, and the blue, and then these that are the issue. And that's just this is a formatting thing. I'm guessing like you submitted this to the whatever you used for your designer, but it wasn't big enough, so they like added gutters or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. And then this is just simply design. You know, someone who is trained in graphic design would be able to advise on this. So, you know, it's not unfixable. This especially is not unfixable. You could put up a new cover tomorrow if you wanted, if you self-publish this on Amazon. That's just kind of a little kind of housekeeping note and a general note for that sort of thing. I never know how to end these videos. I gotta come up with a fun catchphrase to end these videos. That's all. Jazz hands. Oh my god. Anyways, happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Hall-reading, everybody. And I will see you next month. I will be covering a kind of advanced writer copy version of Wayne Trammell's new book, Johnny Lycan and the Anubis Disc. I'm very excited to talk about this one. It's also a little Halloween-y, so you might see this outfit again. Maybe not the lights, because, well, you know, that would just be tacky, I guess. Okay. Bye, guys. Oh crap, I'm starting in the wrong place. All right. Forget everything I just said.